Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a video for you that is, well, part disassembly, part sneak preview, and part overall discussion about something that has had just a little bit of hype. But first, before I go any further, I want to thank the Patreon patrons who make this channel possible, as well as a core of friends, frankly, whose not only donations but loans, as well as, frankly, just kindness, have kept the channel afloat throughout the years and make this just a much better place to be. And in fact, this knife comes to me from just one of those friends, from my buddy Sid. Sid got this guy in the mail and said, Nick, you got to check this out. This thing's amazing, and I'd love to see a video about it. And I said, you know what? Okay, I don't take that many loaners these days, but I figured I'd make an exception. Grimsmo Knives is a company that a lot of people are interested in because, for a long time at least, they were sort of the definition of hyped, right? And they do really good work. This is one of their earlier knives. This is the Grimsmo Knives Norseman, one from my personal collection. A very strange knife, but they're well known for not only doing damn near everything in-house, but also for amazing fall-shutty actions, really nice approaches. I have looked at Grimsmo Knives a whole bunch and remain a major fan of their work. And in fact, Grimsmo has made the Norseman here, but they also had a second model, the Rask. I reviewed a Rask. In fact, I owned a Rask for a little while there, but ultimately it didn't end up sticking around, partly because I got an offer I couldn't refuse, but partly because, well, I could have refused, but I'd have been dumb to refuse it, right? But anyways, and partly just because, well, I got a lot of knives around. But they have recently, then they put the Rask on hiatus. They said no more Rasks for a little while. But now they're making more Rasks, and indeed, this, my friends, this is more Rask right here. This is Grimsmo Rask number 370. This is one heck of a knife. So, my goal here for today is just to start off by giving you a quick little bit of a look at it here. And unfortunately, I don't have an original line Rask to show you differences, but there are a couple of big ones. We'll see some of those during disassembly, and then also to give some of my first impressions. But let's go on ahead and take this little guy apart. And one of the things I like very much about Grimsmo Knives, actually, is that they give you in the box everything that you need to take the knife apart. You get a T9 tool as well as a little bit of nano oil, which is a really nice product for this particular type of bearing action knife. And then, you know what, out of respect for the tool, let's go on ahead and use the built-in tool for it here. And we'll go ahead and pop this loose. What we see here is that this is not a free spinning pivot. There is a way to get in there. But, yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll pop out the pivot here. Of course, my buddy okayed my taking it apart. He knows me too well to know that I'd be, having this guy for more than 2 minutes in hand without popping the damn thing apart. But that is how I roll. There we go. And then let's go on ahead and put the, pop these guys out in the back too. Pretty torqued down here. And put that there. One piece of very interesting video watching, if you will, from the Grimsmos, actually, is a recent video that John and Eric made about the Rask 2.0. Basically detailing the history of the knife, talking about the changes that they made, why they made those changes, what's different, what's the same, and kind of where they stand now. It's actually, it's like an hour and a quarter minutes long. It's a lot. But it's actually a really good watch, right? It's an interesting kind of deep dive into how these things work, and it'll give you a much bigger appreciation for what went into this tool and its modern design. But what we see here is, well, a couple of things. To start with, the internal milling is much stronger. It's not only just beautifully milled, generally speaking, but it is... there seems to be more of it. Another major change is right here. This is a lock bar insert. In fact, it looks like... yeah, it's been labeled with AEBL, which is a kind of steel. They've got their ceramic detent ball still pressed in there, still flattened off at the top. And then the same kind of screws that they use for the pivot, but looks to be smaller. So yet another grade of screw around the Grimsmo place. I don't know if it's actually smaller, if it's just a lack of chamfer. Either way, it's a different screw. I'm not going to take that out because... well, honestly, I don't need to. And then what we have here is a sort of detent rampy sort of thing. This is almost akin to the detent ramps on Brian Nadeau's knives, but sure, I mean, that makes sense. We see here a time and date, proudly made in Canada, Rask, February 2021. So I'm filming this, by the way, March 24th of 2021. So this is quite literally well, maybe not hot off the presses. It's had a little time to cool off, but still. We see their bearing race here. Some kind of a Delrin still looks like. The bearings themselves, not the race, mind you. Those are still engraved with Grimsmo around the side there. But the bearings are one of very few things not made in-house on these guys. We see the new kind of pivot. They have found a different way to make it free spinning that involves this kind of a triangular delta-ish shape on there, which then fits into a similar set of grooves on the face of it there, which is nice. And, you know, on the whole, the machining on this, on the inside of this, is as nice as the machining on the outside of most knives. We see, actually, the detent hole is a little bit different. It's gone from being a hole drilled in one spot to a groove, so to speak, which is fine. I don't have a strong feeling either way about it, but, you know, hey, seems to work. And then everything else is the same. You've still got the two stop pins here. Again, they talk about that in that video there, so that lets them tune the action a little bit, tune the lockup a little bit, just by adjusting those diameters in very small increments. And that's kind of neat. So, I gotta say, I mean, initially, my first impressions of this are very positive, right? This is, and by the way, RWL34 is the steel. Still, that's the same steel they've been using on Norseman forever. I think they did, I want to say they did a small run in, I think, CPM 154 or something along those lines. Another steel that's basically chemically almost the same damn thing. But still, there is that. Very smooth bearings here. Clean these off. This guy is factory fresh. My buddy Sid said he didn't take it apart. He barely even carried it before sending it my way because he really thought that it would be a cool video for the channel and because he's a very strong supporter of the channel, and that matters to him. And, you know, I really do appreciate that. What we see here, then, is that... Oh, and actually, I'll go ahead and I'll clean the detent ball area. Not that it looks to be dirty, but, you know, can't hurt, right? Yeah, we see here that there is an internal clip screw, and the internal clip screw has the same amount of ornamentation as the external ones, and is also anodized, by the way. All the internal screws are anodized to match the external screws, which is absolutely not necessary, but is a little bit of extra. And honestly, for the kind of price that these are demanding, and I don't actually know the price of this yet, and I'm not gonna until I know the final review. But part of that is just because, well, it's they were a little hard to buy at the moment. And part of that is because I try not to learn the price of things until I'm ready to go, because I don't want to be biased too early in the review. I want to come up with an idea what I think the price should be based on the market. But my understanding is that these are, you know, very easily going to be probably $700 or $800 is it would be my guess based on what their prior products have come in under. They may be pushing it up higher. I hope not, but you know, we will definitely see, and I'm sure somebody will post the current price in the comments below if you're curious about it. But I'll do my best not to notice. Anyways, so we are ready to put this guy back together here. It actually is pretty dry out of the sort of out of the blue. Why is this? It looks like there's a little something in the tip of the nano oil applicator. What's this about? Okay, I'm going to give this a good squeeze vertically. Hopefully that'll pop it loose. Probably just a little piece of plastic from the cap coming loose. Whoa there. Okay, and it went off. All right, we're good. And let's go on ahead and apply way too much lubrication in true Nick Shabazz style. All right, let's go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the applicator tip here to distribute some of that lubrication, because holy cow. All righty. Did it, like, hit the phone? No, okay, good. We're all right. So there we go. That is lubricated. I'll go ahead and drop a bearing in place here. And I'll spin it around here to get the lubrication fully onto the bearing. Next step is going to be to put this guy here. I'm not going to be able to fill the detent ball hole just because that's a lot, even by my standards. So what I'm going to do instead is kind of coat the detent ball track and then put a little drip right onto the detent itself. And that should do the trick for me. Alrighty, now let's go on ahead and put in the second bearing. Very first time I got my Grimsmo Rask, the original. First day I had it, went on Instagram and excitedly did a live disassembly. Went great, lots of fun, except I left the bearing out. So I put the whole thing back together. We're like, wow, it's now off center, and God, the action is garbage. What did I do wrong? And I look at Instagram chat, and everybody's screaming, "The bearing, Nick! You're bearing, you idiot!" Oh my! So to this day, I I double check myself before I double wreck myself. Anyways, so let's go ahead and put this guy back together. I'm gonna use a little bit of blue Loctite here. Blue 242. Is there another? No, it doesn't look like it. All right, that's fine. I was wondering if there was a shorter end of this T9 thing. But at the very least, if you're curious about any of the tools I'm using, well, nickshabazz.com/tools, or more importantly, Grimsmo Knives. All of these came directly with it. So, and I do appreciate that very much, right? I don't know that you need to take things apart, and certainly you don't need to take things apart 2 minutes after getting it. That's me being a reviewer and a little bit insane. But it is nevertheless not a bad idea to be able to do that well and for them to give you the tools. And especially, T9 is not the most common sort of, screw size. So, can't argue with it. Just cleaning out the pivot here, getting rid of some of the initial Loctite, because it looks like they did put this guy together with a little bit of thread locker in there. So I just want to clean that out of the threads. Very nice clean threading here. I am pretty impressed so far. They are, as they need to, at the kind of prices they charge, but they do seem to really be going that extra mile in terms of the machining quality. And knowing that every damn thing, at least to the best of my knowledge still, is being done in-house, that's a thing we respect in Swiss watches, maybe a thing we respect in knife making. But anyways, that's nice. I appreciate it. So what I'm doing now is just getting everything sort of adjusted and dialed in. First time I put it back together. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, okay, that's quality action right there. I'm going to see if I can loosen this up a little bit. It was a little too tight first time I did it. Let's see if that makes it any better. Checking for blade play here. Okay, that's a good action right there. I am actually smiling. That's a... That's not something that's going to be sensical to most humans, but a really good action on a pocket knife absolutely does bring joy. And I will say this is a really good action. The last Norseman I handled, I recently picked up, maybe a year and change ago, sometime before the time warp, so to speak. I picked up a Norseman and the brand new model, and it was a great knife, but the detent on it was a little too hard. And here they have softened that up. Boy, is this nice. So let's go on ahead, now that we've got it disassembled and everything's working really good, let's go on ahead and put this guy back together and, it's done. Let's go on ahead and put this guy on the table and give a little bit of first impression. My first impression of this really is very positive. The Rask itself is a knife that in a lot of ways, if we put this up next to, and here, well, let's go on ahead and just, while we're doing it, do some size comparison. Spyderco Delica right here. Here it is against the Grimsmo Knives Norseman. Ontario Rat number 2. Look, it's a weird thing already. And actually up against a couple of what I feel to be relatively comparable knives in a couple of different ways. Here we have the Holt Knives Spectre, which in a lot of ways feels like the, it feels very Rasky in sort of its overall approach. Skiff Knives Drifter, which is another all three of these is CNC made, small, sharp batch, excellent stuff. And then actually I'll put it up against the Sharp by Design Brian the Doe Void, which is another really incredibly done CNC style knife, although this one is made over by Ray out there. And although Brian does have customs that are really good. One of these days I'll get one. Anyways, so first impressions are very positive here. They have added a sharpening choil, which I appreciate very much. Was a major downside of the Rask. And although it breaks up the line a little bit here, from a functionality perspective, it's a really good idea. It's a really good idea. Maybe there's a way they could do this a little bit differently to, avoid having kind of that intermediate hump here, although it's got a little bit of a harpoony thing. And, let's be real here. At some level, the the knife unique is allowable for them. They've done other nice little touches. The chamfers are on the outside here, and what we see here is actually this is not a flat handle. This has got a bit of a sunburst pattern of its own, which is sort of a Grimsmo hallmark in a lot of ways. Maybe not a hallmark. Lots of folks have done that, but it's got very, very nice machining that starts very subtle. This part just really looks textured, and then comes as you go, and very gradually you can see it starting. Like if I look at it very carefully, you can see the beginning of this pattern. So it's not like they just started the pattern here. It just really gets big enough to be able to see through the stonewash around this point and then goes all the way out. And it does match on the clip, and the clip, by the way, is absolutely good to go. Ergonomics on it are very nice. You can choke up. Ooh, I like that even better. Yeah, choking up and with that little bit of finger choil, this feels pretty good in the hand. It is a very thin knife overall. I'll go ahead and I'll put it up next to the Norseman for a comparison that roughly nobody will have, but it is actually a little bit, it looks to be maybe about the same thickness, maybe a little thinner than the Norseman, depending on exactly what angle you're at, but it is a little thinner than the Spectre from the looks of it, and the little looks to be maybe about the same as the Delica. This is a thin knife here. No complaints there. It's definitely pocket pecking a little bit. No, that's for sure. But in terms of kind of nitpicks here, there's really nothing that I'm seeing that's immediately wrong. Centering is dead on. The blade is safe in the back here. Action is really good. The lockup here is about 25-40%. He says, being very unable to estimate this distance here. But it's solid. I like very much the labeling here, and frankly, I think that's a little bit more attractive than putting it on the blade itself. You know, this is an earlier line Norseman. This is Norseman 821, and they're up to 3,000 or some odd now, I think. But, you know, 821 and 370. But anyways, he says, repeating two numbers. My observation was that they've made fewer Rasks still than Norsemen generally, and that makes sense. There's a newish model here, but I gotta say, I'm impressed. What is that? Okay, look at this. Let's see if I can show this to you here. Yeah, look right inside there. They have engraved, for whatever the heck reason, the inside of the scale behind the lock bar relief with Rask. Is there any reason for that at all? And by the way, there is also engraving underneath the clip. It says Grimsmo Knives there. Is there any reason at all for that? Absolutely not. Am I happy that it's there? Yeah, I think so. That's kind of a neat little detail. Completely meaningless, but by God, pretty neat. And similarly, really nice engraving on the top here. Appreciate that very much. Yeah, this is solid. This is very solid. Yeah. So that's my first impression. This is very solid. Am I gonna get one? I might. Actually, this is pretty impressive. There's a nice little piece, and depending on what the pricing is like, and you know, it remains a very, very nice knife out of the Grimsmos. And boy, with the tent is much better than the more recent Norseman. The action remains just like, whoo, yes, yeah. I'm pretty impressed here. So yeah. If you can get one, it's absolutely great. We'll keep an eye out, of course, for the full review. I'll carry this guy around and give you some, do a little more research, etc., and go a little bit deeper. But my first impressions are very good. Well done, Grimsmos. You have brought the Rask back, I think, better than ever. And yeah, hope this has been interesting to you all. And have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.